This is perfect for the Boston Celtics. The NBA draft is only a couple of weeks away, and the Boston Celtics are in a very interesting spot, having two picks close to each other, being 28 and 32 in the first and second rounds. And a guy that is being highlighted in this video is none other than St. Joe's' Rasheer Fleming, who has a lot of size and length and plays a little bit of a Joe Mazzulla type of ball. So we could see that as one of the perfect fits for the Boston Celtics landing in the NBA draft. Hello everybody, and welcome back to another video here on Celtics Digest. I am Patrick Billings, and before we get into anything, guys, if you guys are liking the videos that Bruce and I are dropping here on Celtics Digest, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. What are you guys doing? If you're loving the content, you might as well hit a subscribe button, know when we're posting, turn on the notification bells. Got a lot of stuff going on with a lot of news coming with the NBA draft and with some trade rumors as well. And with that being said, guys, let's get right into the video. So we have another interesting prospect for the Boston Celtics here in Rasheer Fleming, playing out of the A10 at St. Joseph's. And he's a very interesting prospect, as there's a lot of positives to his game, and I think that this is a guy that could fit really well with the Boston Celtics with how he plays and especially with his size. So let's kind of get into talking to him a little bit here. By Jonathan Givony, we're going to go through some of his measurements here. From St. Joe's, Rasheer Fleming's official measurements from the combine at standing 6'8", so about 6'9.5" with shoes on, just over 230 pounds with a 7'5.5" wingspan and 9'1.5" standing reach, which is absolutely ridiculous, the size on this guy. I think that plays a huge part in the Celtics and what they need when it comes to depth, especially with a big man. He plays more of the 4, but can play some of that small ball 5, and he definitely has some impressive, tough word to say, impressive stuff in his game that the Celtics will like, and I think that he could fit in very, very well with the Boston Celtics going into next season, especially with Jayson Tatum not being able to play to start the season. But if we go and look, he was a junior out of St. Joe's, and he was constantly getting better after every single season. But if we just highlight his last season here at St. Joe's, averaging 14.7 points per game, 8.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists, and he was averaging 3 stocks a game, which is steals and blocks for those who may not know combined. And he shot the ball fairly well. I mean, shooting 53% from the field and 39% from the three-point line, something that he kind of added more into his game. As you can see, he was shooting about 4.5 a game and making just under 2 a game, which is definitely respectable. A lot of them just being off the catch and shoot, none really off of the dribble. But with that being said, let's kind of get into some of his strengths here, as Rasheer Fleming is 6'9", very long, and he is compared to a Pascal Siakam and an Obi Toppin, which I definitely don't mind those comparisons. I think those are two great players in their own realms regardless. Obi being very athletic and Pascal being very, very good down low, and definitely grew his three-point shooting as his time went on in the NBA. He's got a wiry frame and standout athleticism. Fleming brings a rare blend of defensive disruption, floor spacing ability, and explosive upside as a modern NBA 4. Plays with a high motor and competitive edge, and constantly active as a rebounder, shot blocker, and transition threat. But when I feel like, as a Celtics fan, you hear some of those things as his strength, to me, kind of reminds me of a Robert Williams when it comes to talking like that. I mean, other than the jump shot, as he's a well better jump shooter, I think that when you kind of hear things like that, being a good paint presence on the defensive end, being a good rebounder, a transition threat, and I think that one thing in his game that really wasn't shown too much at St. Joe's that I think could have been used more was him as a lob threat, because he is crazy long, as we saw, having the 9'1" standing reach. I mean, if he just reaches up and goes up for the ball and uses his vert, I think he's going to get up and get most of those lobs, and I think that's a really good thing to plug into the Boston Celtics offense. And like we said, very versatile in schemes, averaged those 3 stocks a game as a junior. He's got good instincts on the weak side helper and a closeout defender. And as it says here, his length allows him to erase any mistakes, recover quickly, and contest without fouling. And I think that's something that I talked about as well with Cedric Coward. If you guys didn't see that video, go ahead and check that one out. He's another fun prospect that I think the Celtics would love to have. But I think that's one thing too with having that length, is really being able to make up for those mistakes, because on defense, if you're kind of overcommitting to a thing, to a play, excuse me, if you're overcommitting. You can kind of make up for it for your length to try and get into there for a steal or kind of help you get a little bit more in front of them, even though you're behind the play a little bit. And of course, here it says he covers the ground well and is comfortable with switching onto wings or contesting jumpers in space. Massive leap into offensive profile. He's become one of the most efficient and confident stretch bigs in the A10 and arguably one of the most improved shooters nationally after shooting 32% from the three as a freshman and moving to 39% from three and so on and so forth. And I mean, there's one thing about his game that I think NBA scouts could be a little bit, weary about, and that's if he's going to be able to make at that high of a clip from the three-point line at the NBA level. As we know, it's a little bit further back, so if he's able to do that at the NBA level, he's going to be a very impressive player, to say so the least. And I think if he brings that in as well for the Celtics, I think that could be a scary sight. And one last touch here on his strength is that he's a very underrated passer with a clever ability to find teammates and make reads. He's developed into a very well-rounded player on both ends of the floor. With that 7'5" wingspan, gives him a standout length to play power forward and the center. And I think one thing with his passing too, he does see the passes right before they are going to happen, but sometimes he makes a decision just a little bit too late. So I think that'll grow in his game as it goes on, especially playing with the Celtics. And again, I think that center position is one that he won't be playing too much, but I think it's something if he wanted to play the small ball, he could definitely do that because he's more comfortable guarding the 4 to 5 position. He can definitely guard some threes in the league, and I think that's something that will help him stand out a little bit more if he's able to do that. But a lot of these strengths are definitely ones that stand out, especially being comfortable in the pick and pop, great in the pick and roll, and I think that's something that the Boston Celtics will definitely love to have on their squad. And if we look at some of the weaknesses here, he struggles to create his own shot, limited handle, and doesn't have a go-to move in the post or off the dribble, and that's something that might develop in time, which I'm sure it will, especially at the NBA level. And his off-ball awareness on offense, he can drift a little bit, tends to rely on the guards to create for him, and his assist-to-turn ratio remains a concern. But like I said, he does see the passes, he does see the cuts, but he's kind of making those decisions just a little bit too late, creating those turnovers. And I think with the post moves, I think that'll come as well. If you look at some of his tape, he does have some great touch. He has some great athleticism. So I think with the team like the Boston Celtics, I think that there's a way for him to grow very easily there and kind of hide his weaknesses on the offensive end as well, because they'll know how to use him very, very well. And again, the handle, I don't think you have to really be too worried about. Like I said, with his three-point shooting, a lot of those threes that were shot and made were on the catch and shoot, and I believe all of them were. If there was a couple off the dribble, then, 90% of them off the catch. So that's not really something that you have to worry about. And again, he is a bigger player. You don't expect them to have these Kyrie type of handles, but I think learning to kind of have a little bit more ball security will definitely help him grow as a player and definitely get him more playing time. And we talk about here, some of his lateral quickness is decent for a forward, but it's not elite. He may struggle to contend to perimeter base fours in the NBA without improvement on the defensive footwork. He'll need to tighten up his base, especially when closing out, defending pick and pops, and has some limitations as a playmaker and decision maker under stress as well. And again, he only turns 21 a couple weeks after the draft. So that is a definitely interesting kind of take here on him as well, because we think that the Celtics might go a little bit older, but if they do go a little bit younger, this guy's played 3 years in college, 21 years old, kind of a little bit of a vet. He was talked about maybe if he was going to go back to college, but now he's kind of stating in the draft that he's going to be that mid to late first round pick. We're seeing a little bit more at the end of the teens to early 20s, which could be a spot for the Boston Celtics to kind of move up and get him if they really do like him. I don't believe that they worked him out yet, but I do think that this is a guy that they do love just because of the style of play. And again, another concern is that he played in the A10, which is a mid-major conference. But if you watch college basketball, the A10 is no joke. They definitely have some good competition, and I think that's where the Obi Toppin comparison comes from, as Obi Toppin did play at Dayton. So a lot of times teams aren't really too much of a fan of the mid-major conferences, but we've seen some guys like John Morant, but that is just a total different athlete compared to Rasheer Fleming. But again, a lot of college basketball has grown, and we've seen that, and it doesn't matter about the mid-majors anymore, so I don't think that's much of a weakness. And there's a lot of good things to talk about Rasheer Fleming, of course. And again, we can find here that there was an article actually from NBC Boston talking about his fit with the Boston Celtics and how he can make an impact right away in the two areas of three-point shooting and rebounding. Kind of the same things we already touched on, as he has steady improvement from three, shot a career high 39%, tremendous rebounder and great athleticism. And Chris Forsberg believes that Fleming has the chance to be a Mazzulla ball fever dream. In this quote here, he says, "This all comes with the caveat that he did it in the A10 against slightly lower competition." And Forsberg says, "But Fleming showed an ability to roll to the hoop and finish in the two-man game on top of some good defensive energy." If teams believe his three-point shot will transfer to the NBA, Fleming shot 39% on 4.5 attempts per game as a junior. Then he might get drafted ahead of where the Celtics can comfortably trade up to. If he's last into the early 20s, the Celtics could move up and strike. And with that being said on Rasheer Fleming, guys, a lot of you guys requested this video. A lot of you guys like him as a prospect, especially for the Boston Celtics, and clearly some NBA insiders for the Boston Celtics at NBC Boston love him as well. So guys, let me know in the comments down below what you think of Rasheer Fleming. How do you think he compares to a lot of guys in the NBA? You know, they kind of gave the Obi Toppin, Pascal Siakam. I think a little bit of Robert Williams when it comes to the defensive end and the athleticism, maybe not the shooting. Definitely better in that perspective of basketball. But if there's any other guys you want to see in the comments below, please put them down there. We got a lot of guys requesting some guys that you want to see in these videos, and we love it. We love everything. We love all the love that you guys are dropping and love all the comments down below. And if you like this video, guys, also drop a like, and you're going to see much, much more here on Celtics Digest. With that being said, let's go Boston Celtics, and we'll see you guys in the next video.